So it was just me and my client.
Okay.
We flew to Jaipur. We had like a whole day shoot that happened there. But you need to be ready to work without money as well. Like, how will you organically push your content is something that you always have to keep in mind. But what happens is you end up talking to only your manager, at max your senior manager. Your team lead does not interfere a lot. Your team lead will only talk to your manager. Filmfare awards are going to happen on say for example tomorrow.
Okay.
And my work has ended at 7 today. I can't be like, I am not going to pick up. Because कल शो है, कुछ भी हो सकता है आज.
Hey guys, मैं हूँ चैतन्य नवाथे, आपका होस्ट. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to season 3 of Above the Average. Season 3 is going to be similar to season 1 and 2. 10 episodes रहेंगे, 10 guests, 10 different careers and fields. The only difference is in-person podcasts. I'm really happy with it. सब shooting, editing, सब बहुत quickly and बहुत अच्छे से हुआ. But due to all of this being so quick and fast and everything, I have not been able to shoot any intros for every episode. So यही intro आपको हर बार दिखने वाला है. So अगर आप ये 7वीं, 8वीं, 10वीं बार देख रहे हो तो what, go, skip, let's go into the episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Above the Average Season 3. In this episode with me I have Anushka Ghate. Hi Anushka.
Hi.
She is one of the 3 Mica group exercise personal interview team members that I have been connected with and lives in Mumbai. Hi, welcome to this episode.
Thank you, Zeta.
Anushka is a social media manager.
Executive. Yeah.
And she's a BMM.
Yeah.
Other than this, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Anushka. We're actually pretty much neighbors, I would say, since we live in the same city.
Yeah.
And I've been working in the space of digital media or social media, to be more precise, for almost 2 years now. I did my bachelor's in mass media and I specialized in advertising. So I think pretty much since my graduation days, I was sure I wanted to be in and around advertising and marketing itself. So work has been around that. My future studies, that's like my master's, my MBA is also in the same space. So yeah, marketing is what I live, breathe and eat.
So I'll start with the same question कि कैसे पता चला कि ये करना है? Like you took commerce, I guess.
No, I did arts.
Achha, you did arts. And then you took BMM.
Right.
So were you sure कि at that time advertising or marketing is what you want to do?
So up until my 10th grade, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was that lost kid in school where I knew people around me had pretty much made that decision. I want to be a doctor or an engineer. And they had already started taking whatever their entrance exam classes were and all. So when I was in the 10th grade, I started having an inclination towards psychology. So that was the first goal for me. So I thought I will do something in clinical psychology. So that's why I took arts. I did 2 years of arts and I realized that along with psychology, I also have to study a lot of other subjects. You have English literature, you have political science, sociology, etc., etc. And those subjects were not at all what I was inclined towards.
Okay.
And if I have to do a majors in psychology, I would have to do 3 years of BA. And that too, you are not guaranteed a seat in psychology. Psychology has very limited seats and the competition for those seats is quite high.
Okay.
So the risk factor there was quite high. So eventually I decided that, so the thing was, I was also, since a very young age, interested in the whole media industry. I never wanted to be on the front side, wanted to be on the screen, but I was always interested behind the screen work.
Okay.
So media was an option for me since the very beginning. So since I did not want to do I still want to do psychology if I had the chance,
Okay.
but since I did not want to do anything else, I knew that media was something that I should start pursuing and looking forward to. So that is how I ended up doing BMI.
Okay. Just small question. You
Yeah.
said limited seats in psychology. What does that mean?
So what happens is your first 2 years of your BA, you will have to study every single course that the college is offering. So it could be
Okay.
literature, it could be history, it could be political science. You have to do all of that. And eventually in your third year, you choose your specialization.
Okay.
So it could be psychology, it could be whatever. So each of these subjects has a limited number of seats. Now, from what I was hearing at that point of time when I was in college, there were very few people who wanted to do a majors in history or in literature or political science. There were a lot of people who wanted to do in psychology, but the number of seats compared to the number of people who wanted, there was a vast difference in that.
Okay.
So maybe if I could have done it probably also. I just did not give myself that chance. But I sort of don't regret it because I'm very happy with what I'm doing right now as well.
Okay. Great. I mean, I believe history में या literature में there's not a lot of job profiles that are prevalent.
They're not prevalent. Yeah, you don't hear
Huh.
jobs like that a lot.
In psychology, there's still a lot.
Like history is also something that I still more or less like. But even when I was thinking of jobs with history, I was still somehow connecting it to media.
Okay.
Because you say, for example, let's take a very recent example of Hira Mandi. Hira Mandi is a TV series on Netflix by Sanjay Leela Bhansali.
Okay.
You need history for that. You
Hmm.
need people to guide you with the right historical facts. So even if I did my majors in history, I would still somehow come back to media.
Okay.
So why not be in media since the beginning itself? So
Okay.
more or less, I was sure media ही करना है.
Huh. So you chose BMM.
Yeah.
How was the degree? What was your experience in college?
So BMM can be a very fun degree to have because there is very little practical knowledge that you have. So there's very little theoretical knowledge that you have to consume, and there's more of practical. So we had to use a lot of your editing softwares, your Photoshop, Illustrator. So all of your assignments were mostly based on that. You would end up having to make a lot of ads. We had a subject in our second year where we also had to make a short film.
Okay.
So it was very interesting. We also had like a whole course for photography. So there's a lot of practical work that goes on there. So for anybody who knows that they can do things but not learn things, maybe it's quite interesting. The only downfall was that my degree college happened in the middle of the pandemic.
Okay.
So I was at home
Mm.
and every single thing we were doing was through Zoom or Google Meet. So the kind of exposure I would have had if things were normal would have been drastically different than what I had.
Practicality missing.
Practicality, which was the key USP of the course,
Mm.
was something I was not able to experience.
Okay.
But there's a lot of scope in there.
Okay. ठीक है, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
After BMM, you joined an agency
Yeah,
as a
digital
social media
marketing.
executive.
Yes. So it was a digital marketing agency,
Okay.
and they had a lot of departments. I got into the social media department. So again, my college did not have placements, so that meant doing a lot of job hunting myself.
Okay.
So of course you have LinkedIn, you have every other Naukri.com and all where you do apply. But how I got my job was a little via. I found out about this company. So I spoke to that girl and she just gave me the email ID of the co-founder.
अच्छा.
So what I did was I went on their website, tried to scroll through, purposely looked for faults in their website.
Okay.
There were some glitches. Their co-founder page had placeholder text. They had Lauren Gibson written on it.
Okay.
And I just noted down things that they could improve on their website. And So basically what I was doing was I was cold emailing them.
Okay.
I told them I was looking for jobs, I happened to come across your website, I happened to notice that these are some improvements you could make. Meanwhile, if you have a job, let me know, because I am interested and I'm looking for jobs.
Okay.
And that's how they reached out to me. Had a little bit of an interview, had an assignment that you have to do. Eventually got it.
What you did is go through the website and
Yeah.
that activity. Many agencies have that as a task, right? When they hire.
Depends, honestly. So I have worked in 2 agencies so far.
Okay.
Both of the agencies had a different kind of assignment where, because now I was applying for social media, they gave me tasks that was related to social media. So it could be they would give me a brand, or they would give me a proper name, like for example, you handle the account of Pepsi, or they would tell me you handle the account of an aerated drinks, and then you have to come up with a campaign, you have to come up with posts for them. So this is what I have seen happening in the social media industry. But I think if you are going in other parts of the digital marketing industry itself, they might ask you
Go
to do
through
the whole website.
do the auditing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, go through numbers.
Yeah, right.
What kind of content we are doing.
Mm.
I want to ask you. So I did a survey with the network that I have. I sent them a Google form and I asked them to give me questions to ask my guests. And you, in a way, have answered one question already, which is how do you pitch yourself to a company without having a lot of experience?
Okay.
So, in a way, when you sent that cold
Cold
email
email, yeah.
and you went through their website and you found out problems in that,
Mm.
you did that.
Right.
Is there anything else that someone who was a BMM fresher or someone who is looking for a job change can do to showcase their skills? What do you think?
So I think when you are entering in the marketing space, the way you speak matters a lot.
Okay.
So of course you did the cold emailing thing, but that just gets you a call. That did not ensure that I had the job.
Neither the interview.
Yeah,
It was just a
it was a telephonic interview, but even in that itself, see, I'm speaking from digital agencies side, is that they know that there are a lot of people who are freshers. They know there are a lot of people who come from even different backgrounds. Sometimes you have people from the finance field also coming into this creative field. So they are very open. So that is a plus point. They are
engineers
open.
coming in.
Yeah. So
That also happens.
So there's no hard and fast rule that you need to have this background. If you have this background, well and good. But what you need to do is you need to already get into the marketer's shoes, because once you get the job, you're going to be pitching for your brand. Why is my brand? Why is my product good? So you need to know that about yourself as well. What is it that you bring to the table? And you may be great at strategizing. You may be having one of the craziest ideas. But if you're not able to talk about yourself, if you're not able to build that communication skill in yourself, it becomes very difficult to enter in any job for that matter, not just marketing. So I think you need to know yourself in and out. You need to know what is it that you're going to be able to bring to the table despite having any experience. Because frankly speaking, companies are open to freshers. You just need to be confident in yourself. So what, if I'm a fresher, everybody starts as a fresher.
Yeah.
And if everybody can get a job, so can you.
Great. That is a very good tip for people. Communication skills, and what you did is good. Like, prove what you do.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, just have confidence in yourself. Everybody starts from the bottom.
Yeah.
Nobody is starting with a lot of experience or a lot of contacts and everything. Everybody starts from the bottom. You keep climbing the ladder.
Great. Talking about climbing the ladder, what was your journey ahead?
So my journey definitely started off very bumpy, because again, I was a fresher. I had no idea what was happening around me. It felt very daunting, because it felt like every single thing that I was doing in my work was having some form of real life implication to it. Because when you're in school, when you're in college, you mess up, it's okay. You lose 5 marks. Big deal. But when you're working, even the smallest of mistakes could lead to either controversies. It could lead to losses or whatever it is. So eventually, initially it was daunting, but once you start, I was very lucky enough to have a good team in the beginning of my career. They were very patient and started working with them. I started with one brand. Eventually, they saw my work. They felt. So in the first 3 months that I had started working, of course, I will give some credit to my manager as well. So we managed to bring almost like 3x growth to the client, and this happened. This client was with this company for around 8 months. But in those 3 months itself, we were able to get that growth for them.
Okay.
So that built a lot of confidence in the rest of the team, mostly my co-founders, that she can handle more. Eventually, by the time I left the company, I was handling around 5 or 6 clients. And I also had to work on a few pitches for the brand. So if anybody doesn't know what pitches are, pitches is basically you are an agency, you have multiple clients. How do you increase your client base? You want to get more brands and companies to start working with you. So that is when you create a whole presentation, create campaigns for them. Like, this is what we would do if you start working with us. Started working on those pitches as well. I managed to, so the pitch that I worked on, we managed to get the biggest client for my company at that point of time.
Wow.
Another very cool thing that happened while I was working for this company was, I was 6 months in this company. My brand was an apparel store based in South Bombay, and they wanted to do a photo shoot. And my company used to do production little bit, they used to outsource. But this one was a big campaign that they were doing. So I was the first employee who actually had to fly out. So we went to Jaipur. So it was just me and my client. We flew to Jaipur. We had like a whole day shoot that happened there. Came back, made sure that I got those resources, the data, the way we wanted, right from your campaign film to all the products. Then strategized. Eventually managed to increase their in-store traffic by like around 40%, I think. So, though my journey in this first company that I was with was incredible, because I felt I had so many learning opportunities. Again, a pro was that it was a startup. You end up doing a lot of things. Not just, so I used to do conceptualization, but I was also client servicing. So that helped me really build my communication skills. Talking to people, making presentations, proving that whatever I have been doing has led to results. At the same time, I got to work a little bit on the website front as well. So for the same company, the apparel store, they were trying to create an online presence for them. So designing the layout for this website was something I worked on. Also had to do a little bit of SEO for another brand, on YouTube especially. So I got to lay my hands on a lot of things because I was working in a startup.
Great. I have 2 questions. Firstly, can you describe what is the team structure in an agency like the one that you worked at?
So, in the first company, as well as the second, the one that I'm currently working in a digital agency, everything is so chill. It is very chill. I entered thinking there would be a lot of sir and ma'am, but it works on first name basis. If your boss is chill enough, he'll probably let you call him by his nickname as well. So hierarchy is not something that you actually have to worry about. But it usually starts, of course, the lowest one will be your interns. Then you have your execs. You have managers. Then it could go on to further. My first company did not have this, current one does. So you have manager, you have senior manager, then you have a team lead, and then you have your boss. So there is a lot in the current company But what happens is you end up talking to only your manager, at max your senior manager. Your team lead does not interfere a lot. Your team lead will only talk to your manager, get a little bit of update on what is happening, and then the team lead directly talks to your boss. So you, as somebody who is just an executive, don't have to worry about a lot of people. You just have to worry about your own teammate.
Okay.
So that's like 2-3 people.
Okay. And this was like the bottom-up approach.
Yeah.
But what are the departments?
So departments, my first company you had social media, you had an entire design team, you had an SEO team, you had a website development team, and finally you had a performance marketing team.
Okay.
And they, at that point of time, did not have a production team, but now do.
Okay.
Similarly, with my current company as well, we are more into social media. You have your influencer team, and they have an entire production studio itself.
Okay.
So that is what is happening in my current place.
On average, how many team members are there in each team?
So it depends. It could start like the minimum number would be 3. Maximum could go up to 8 or 10.
Okay.
Not beyond that. 8 or 10 including your managers. Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to ask about client facing. These are the departments. This is the top down or the hierarchy. But then how does the client facing person, Spock, connect the client to this huge team?
Okay, so you usually are talking to somebody from the client's marketing team itself. So the client themselves will decide, like they will usually have only 2 or 3 people that they will assign for their social media. So from what happens from their side is they will have to be giving you content. So say for example, there's a new product launch. They will be the ones who will be giving you the information. This is the product, this is the USP, this is what we want to talk about the product. They will be the ones who will be giving you any photos if required. If there is any client testimonials that you need, it comes from the client side. You as an agency person will create content around this or from whatever you're getting from the client. And finally, the client will give you approvals. This is fine, we want to talk about this works well and good, let's go ahead. So that is usually what happens. You might have some clients who can be a little bit difficult to deal with. That is especially where the way you talk and the way you handle the situation matters a lot.
Okay.
So if you are going into the client servicing sector, you definitely need to be good enough to convince them that my ideas are the best. You don't tell me what to do because you have hired me as an agency, as a marketing agency for my skills. So just believe that what I have done is appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something on the same lines, ki you are the client servicing person, let's say I'm the client. I want to do SEO, I want to do social media, and let's say production. 3 things. Are you the only person I'll talk to, or will I get to talk to your team?
Depends on your scope of work. If there is, production is happening maybe once a year, twice a year, the work is less. Chances are I'll be the only one you're talking to.
Okay.
But if there is a lot of work, I am dealing mostly with social media. So I will only know what is happening with my social media team because my social media team is like 3-4 people. There will be an SEO team which not only handles one brand, they're going to be handling multiple brands. So from their side you will have like 1 or 2 POCs. Your web development department will have 1 or 2 POCs. So what you end up doing is from every department you have 1 POC who talks to the client. Again, as a client, chances are that you alone will not be looking at every single department. You will be looking at social media. You will have somebody from your own department, like from your own office, looking at web development. You'll have somebody else who's managing production. Because everything involves a lot of information, a lot of data, and most importantly, a lot of money.
Right.
So all of that responsibility is not given to one person.
Okay.
So even from the client side, there are multiple POCs. Even from the agency side, there are multiple POCs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were the social media.
The social media mostly, yes.
Crazy. Nice. Great. Out of all the campaigns that you might have worked at, clients that you might have worked at, tell me the best one and the worst one.
The best and the worst. I think the best one was this client called Wild.
Okay.
They are a fintech company. They have a payment card that works on the concept of social networking and social currency. So anybody on Instagram who has over 1,000 followers can get this card, and you can use this card. And they have they've had partnerships with a lot of other brands. Like, say for example, there's this popcorn company called 4700 BC.
Yeah,
Or
I
they
love
have,
that.
yeah. So then socials, etc. etc. There are a lot. I don't know how many they have right now. But the thing that excited me a lot about this brand was the TG was my own age group. So it was a lot more fun creating content for us.
Okay.
Because we like a lot of quirky, perpy, fun stuff compared to any other brand. Plus, at the same time, the client themselves were very passionate about the work that they were doing. So there were times when what they wanted was very different from what we were doing.
Okay.
But in the meanwhile, the way they would explain things, I was very freshly out of college. I mean, it was only like a year since I had started working, so I'm still saying I'm still a fresher only in this work industry. But the kind of insights you would get from them, it did not feel like a critical, like any criticism coming from them. I would always look at it as a very constructive feedback and a learning curve.
Okay.
So I think that would be my best client.
For the worst, you don't have to take a name. But
Yeah, definitely not taking a name. But it was a funeral service company.
Okay.
They manage funeral services.
Okay.
So apart from the client, the main issue was that this brand talks about death and funeral, which is something nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
So having to create that audience for them was extremely difficult, because you try anything and everything, people were not receptive, we were not seeing any growth, and eventually when you work with a particular brand and you are not able to bring that growth, it starts demotivating you itself, and then you start questioning, is it me, and do I not have the skills enough to grow this brand, or is it the brand in general that it's tough to crack? So to handle these emotions, to handle the work, started getting a little demotivating for me.
Okay.
So that was my best and worst.
Yeah. Great. That very nicely puts me into the next question. How do you manage working for multiple clients who are literally from 5 different fields in itself? Okay, you are doing only social media, but on social media you are doing 5 different things,
Right.
and that too with a team, talking to so many people, being creative. So on the creative part, how do you manage that?
So this was something that my boss himself had told us. So what happens is, we used to take one brand, we start working on it the whole day. Sometimes you would take up 2 days, because of course ideas don't come so easily. But what he had suggested, and something that even I implemented eventually, was you need to give yourself that break. So what you end up doing is, first half you work on one brand. In the afternoon you're working on another brand. And by the end of the day you're working on another brand. Think of it as studying. You pick up, say for example, you start studying history. And you study history the whole day. You study history tomorrow also. You're going to get bored.
Yeah.
So you diversify.
Okay.
You do one subject right now and you do another subject later. Just so that you're not exhausted and you're not losing that creativity in your head. So that's how I usually handle my work, where you keep giving yourself breathers. Again, with these brands, there will be some brands that require a lot of creativity, or some brands that have a lot of work that is required. Say for example, brand A needs me to create 30 posts in a month, but brand B needs me to create only 18. So the scope of work differs.
Yeah.
So maybe I start off my day when I have more energy with a bigger brand, and then by the end of the day you go to a smaller brand where you don't have to put a lot of energy and you just finish it off and leave and end your day.
Great. It's also like for creativity to keep flowing and everything, you need to take breaks.
Definitely.
And going from one brand to another, taking break in between.
Yeah.
I'm sure that helps.
Definitely. So, in my head, in general, also as a person, I look at days as 4 quarters.
Okay.
So you have the morning, you have the afternoon, you have the evening, and then you have the night.
Okay.
Night, as in I'm not including the midnight. That's the 5th quarter where I'm sleeping. Doesn't count.
Okay.
So a lot of times I divide my work in these quarters.
Okay.
So that's how I try to manage my work, and again my brain automatically makes that switch. It'll be like, I'm done for now, let's move on to something new.
Okay. Even if what you're doing for now is not completely till the end.
It's not, so that's when you have to decide how you're going to prioritize. Sometimes it does happen that, you started your work on brand A, it's not over. But if you know the deadline is like after a few days, you can move on. But if you know it's not there, you might take a small break in between where you do something else, but eventually come back to brand A again. So you need to work on priorities and deadlines.
Okay. Talking about priorities and deadlines, it is very well known in the industry कि agency में work-life balance नहीं होता.
Okay.
Many people say that.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm
I
sure
agree.
it
Yeah.
differs agency to agency.
Yeah.
What do you think on that?
Again, like you said, it depends from agency to agency. The first one where I was working was a relatively smaller agency. So the scope of work was less then.
Okay.
So my end time used to be 7:30. At max, we would stretch it till 8:30. And then you're done for the day.
Okay.
My current off time is 7. Luckily, I don't have a lot of work right now because I am in my notice period and they don't want to give me any new work. So by 7 o'clock, I'm able to shut it off. But I know people who work with a lot more brands, much bigger brands and bigger clients, who will end their day anywhere around 9 o'clock. Sometimes if you're working from home, it will even go up till 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that's very common. Clients also sometimes have no boundaries. They will call you at any time of the day, be it like 7 a.m., say 7 a.m. in the morning, 12 a.m. or like you said, on a weekend as well. So what is important is you also need to have your boundaries then. If client is going to completely reject your boundaries, you need to start setting them. So you can give, like say for example, I'm ending at 7, I keep a buffer time till 8:30, beyond which I am not answering any of my clients. I am not picking up calls unless it is urgent. Of course, you cannot be like phone switch off kar phek diya, pata nahi kya chalu hai. You have to, still be more or less available. Maybe you don't pick up a call. Maybe you just text them, is it urgent? And then take a call of what you want to do. But honestly, it depends from the kind of work that you have. Right now, I have the privilege of saying no to my client. But maybe if it's a bigger brand, say for example, I'm working with Filmfare. Filmfare awards are going to happen on say for example, tomorrow.
Okay.
And my work has ended at 7 today. I can't be like, I am not going to pick up call. Because kal show hai. Kuch bhi ho sakta hai aaj shaam ko. So you have to be ready for that. For marketing is not always going to be a 9 to 5 job. You are always going to be on the go with some form of information. Anything can change anytime. I think this is also a question that was actually asked to me in my Manka interview.
Okay.
Was that that marketing is not a 9 to 5 job. How do you look at it? So I will give you the same example I gave in my interview.
Okay.
Was Zomato came out with the whole veg, non-veg delivery system, right?
The red and green color.
Like the outfit. They will have a separate delivery guy for it and all. So that, I think the news came out at sometime in the evening, like late evening. But there was a lot of backlash that happened over the night. Now, as a marketer, that their team did not have the time to shut off their communication and live their life. They were on the go, they were making changes, they were listening to what people were saying. Next day in the morning, the CEO of Zomato put out a news that we will not be giving them a different outfit. They will be still wearing their red Zomato, it's just that we will have different boxes of delivery or whatever that was.
Wow.
So, yeah, marketing is not 9 to 5. Anything can happen anytime.
Yeah.
Given social media right now, conversations spark, controversies spark.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of what is being said about your brand every single minute.
Okay. Wow. It's like that Zomato example. Within 24 hours, you had to make a decision,
Exactly.
and maybe the CEO, he had to decide exactly what to say, what words to use, what word not to use.
Exactly.
Crazy. All right, going towards Maika now. After working as a social media manager, social media
Exactly.
executive, a Spock, client facing, now you're going towards Maika doing an MBA. What do you expect?
So, one of the main things is, even talking about beyond Mica, I am currently in the digital sphere. But what I want to happen to me through Mica is to get into more 360-degree marketing. That also involves a lot of your offline marketing, not content, but like strategizing how you're going to start pushing brands, your services, etc. That is not something that happens in the digital sphere, like field itself. The brand will tell you, the client will tell you, this is what you have to do, and you just come up with ideas around it. But that is not what I want to stick to. I want to be the one who comes up with the ideas. I want to be somebody who decides that, this is the kind of change we need to bring in the product itself because the audience wants it. I want to be the one who is probably looking at the TVCs that are coming out, the billboards that are going up. Because since a very young age, I have wanted my parents to point out at something and be like, my daughter did that.
Okay.
To point out at a TVC that my child, she worked on it, or point out at a billboard and be like, oh, that campaign, have you heard about it? My daughter is working on it.
Nice.
So that is something that is a goal for me, to get into more of the 360-degree marketing itself.
Great. That is amazing. I'll backtrack a little bit because this is one of the questions that I got from the survey.
Okay.
How do you choose what to do? You chose social media. How did you choose social media?
I actually did not choose social media. Social media chose me, is what I would say. Because back when I was applying for jobs, I had applied for jobs in multiple spheres. I had even applied in performance marketing. Performance marketing is basically the paid ads that you see on your
Facebook.
Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. So I had also applied there. I had also applied for a brand strategist, and meanwhile I had also applied for social media.
Okay.
I got a job in social media. That's the one I heard from. That's the one I accepted, and that is how I got into social media.
Okay.
But how do you decide? Honestly, it depends on. You have to know what the job profile is. Every single LinkedIn post will tell you what it is that you have to do. You have to go through it. And you have to start imagining yourself in that job. Is it something that you want to do? Is it something you see yourself doing for at least the next 1 or 2 years? After maybe taking that 1 or 2 years, maybe you have the privilege of shifting fields. But do you see yourself doing that? A very common question I ask in most of my interviews to, it could be the HR, it could be whoever I'm being interviewed by, is that what does a typical day look like in my job profile? Then they will more or less inform you what your duties are. Is it something that excites you? So what happened was when I asked this question to my first employer, they said that I will have to come up with ideas for social media posts, I will have to go for shoots, etc., etc. And at that time, there was this show called The Bold Type, where there were these four girls who were also working in a digital agency. They used to also go for shoots and all. So I found it very interesting.
Okay.
So that's where I was like, I see myself doing it. I see myself enjoying it. And that's when I decided, I got this job. I find it very interesting. And I took it. And honestly, I had a great time.
Amazing.
So You just need to be able to look at yourself and put yourself in the shoes of this person. Do you enjoy it? For me, the biggest criteria is, do I enjoy my work? Because you're going to be doing it 40 plus hours in a week.
Yeah.
Do you want to dedicate 40 plus hours of your week doing something you're not interested in? Definitely not.
Yeah.
So that's how you would probably make a decision.
Crazy. Because what you said, you need to know what the job is like.
Yeah.
The way you ask the HRs, what is the day-to-day
Work,
task and
yeah.
work. That is exactly what this podcast is meant to do. To give awareness.
Right.
Awareness is, I think, the biggest
Definitely.
need of the hour when it comes for the fresher or someone in
Yeah.
college. So great. So you work in social media, and I want to ask you, if you hadn't gone for an MBA, what would have been your future?
So the thing is, this current agency that I'm working with, they have two segments to themselves. So they have a non-media side and they have a media side. Non-media is your regular brands that you use, sort of like FMCG-ish. But your media is everything where it comes to Filmfare, Geo Cinema, or Sony Pics, Warner Bros. These are companies and brands that work with coming out with movies and TV series and stuff like that. So like I said, I had an inclination towards media since the beginning. So my career trajectory without an MBA would be to eventually get into that side. So I got into the non-media side of it because my previous job was non-media. So here they let me work with non-media. Eventually my goal would have been to climb the ladder and go into the media side.
Okay. So is it like a distinct कि ये client media वाला तो ये अलग है?
There are different clusters is what we call them. Clusters basically teams.
Okay.
So we actually have a non-media cluster which has a different head, and you have a media cluster which has a different head.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of interaction that happens professionally among the teammates. Like informally, you see people honestly roaming around. You end up, if you smoke, you end up going on smoke breaks or having coffee and all. You end up talking with people, so you know what is happening there. But that's informally. Formally, you don't get to work with them.
Okay.
So that way, you would have to like really prove your worth in the media, in the non-media department, and show them, I can maybe, good enough to shift somewhere else.
Is this like agency specific or is this
I think this is
industry?
agency specific. I don't think this is like industry specific from what I've heard.
Okay.
But depends. I mean, this is what happens in my company, and that's what I would have seen myself doing eventually.
According to your understanding, is media, like working on media clients, more difficult or demanding than non-media clients?
I would say it is, because non-media, you still have, there's not a lot of emergency. If there is a new service, if there's a new update in your product, if there's a new product itself that's launching, you know exact dates, you know the timeline, and you will adjust yourself to it. Non-media, anything can happen at any moment. Plus, if you have...
In media.
In media, anything can happen at any time. I know people from my own office who end up working quite late at night because, maybe there's some controversy with the celebrity from the show that your brand is working on.
Okay.
You need to be able to manage that. Or there is a sudden announcement that you have to make that happens a little later at night because that's where your TG is more awake. So I would say that media is more demanding than non-media.
Great.
Plus, you also end up having to, go for these shoots and all with these celebrities and all, which is not something that's quite common with the non-media department.
I think I have one last question about working in an agency. I mean, we are an Indian, clients and agency, everything is in India.
Yeah.
And India is a very cost sensitive
country,
country and market. So how do you do your work, which is social media, while being cost effective?
Cost effective in the sense from the client side or from...
For the clients.
for the client.
Okay.
Like for example, if my product is expensive, how do I convince my audience to still buy my product, or like handling the budgets of the client?
No, I mean in your work, not the
Not the audience.
not for the
the
audience.
customer. Okay, so yeah, that has become very tough because you end up having to bargain even with your clients.
Okay.
They will give you X amount.
Hmm.
You are never satisfied with the X amount. You always want more.
Hmm.
So one of the tricks that I had once used was we wanted to do an influencer campaign, and we asked the client quite upfront, what is your budget, so that we can accommodate our work and the influencers in the same budget.
Hmm.
But the client was quite open. He was like, you tell me.
Okay.
But that is something that I look at more or less as a red flag. Because you do all the work. You bring back a 10 lakh budget. And they're like, हमारे पास पैसा नहीं है. So I always like to work with numbers. But this client, we were not very sure if they'd be okay with a very high budget. So we still got a plan done in the most optimum manner that we could, managing the kind of output and objective that we wanted, plus the money. And the budget was somewhere around 5 lakhs. But when I was talking to the client, I went up and told them it's a 7 lakh budget. I kept that buffer for myself.
Okay.
Because the client could say, नहीं, मुझे 3 लाख में करना है. I would tell them, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 5 लाख में कराती दूँगी.
Okay.
And then I met my goal. So that is a very classic bargaining
Okay.
Colaba causeway trick that I used on them. But yes, budgets are very difficult. You always hope there is budget, but you need to be ready to work without money as well. Like, how will you organically push your content is something that you always have to keep in mind. Even if you have a budget, you will still try to come up with ideas that you want to get viral organically. So, I mean, more or less, once you start working, you get a hang of it. It's not something that you need to worry about when you're just starting. Because again, you are not the only person in your team. There are a lot of people. Sometimes you might even get your boss involved. If you know your idea is damn good, you know that it will make noise, and you have faith in your idea, your boss will fight for you. Chances are your boss will go to the client and tell them, "Ki bro, listen, the team is confident. Give us some more money, and we are sure we'll be able to do something."
Nice.
So that's what I'm saying. Agency is very chill. The bosses are most of the times, if it's a good agency, they're very chill. So you end up, adjusting your expectations accordingly.
Okay. One last question from the survey is how do you stand out in front of your manager? Like in your team, let's say there are 5 people in the team. How do you stand out as like the best team member?
Honestly, it boils down to your work ethic.
Okay.
Every manager has different expectations, and since the beginning, you need to be able to understand what your manager's expectations are.
Okay.
So, for example, in my first job, my manager was somebody who loved to talk. Okay?
Achha.
She would every Monday come and ask us, what was your weekend like? Every Friday, what are your weekend plans? In the middle of the day, she's talking about her family and her husband and whatnot. So I knew that to win her, I would just have to be very frank with her. So you end up having conversations, you build a good relation with them. So eventually they start observing you more because they like you. But in my second company where I'm currently working, that's not the case with my manager. My manager, he appreciates good work. He appreciates not making any mistakes. He appreciates due diligence. So that's where you start focusing. So if you want to impress your manager, know what it is that your manager likes.
Okay.
And adjust yourself accordingly.
Great. That's a great answer. I'm sure.
I mean, of course, you're going to try and do your best in your work.
Yeah.
That is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You have to do the best that you can in your work, but at the end of the day, managers are humans as well. The best way to win a human is through emotions.
Nice. I think that's a very important tip for any executive.
Anybody in the workforce, honestly.
Yeah. Amazing. So it's been really amazing talking to you. Listening to someone from the agency side, being from a brand side, has been, I've learned a lot.
Okay.
Before I let you go, I have a game that I need to play with you.
Sure.
The game is Would You Rather.
Okay.
So I'll give you two options and you have to choose which one you would go for.
Okay.
And then why.
Yeah.
So the first question is, would you rather go for a huge client who is very toxic,
Okay.
or go for like 10 smaller clients who are very nice and very good to you?
Honestly, I would like to place my mental health before toxicity.
Okay.
But eventually, you have to look at growth. That is something that's very important for me. Will I be able to manage the toxicity but still achieve a lot of growth here? Maybe I would even choose the toxic client.
Okay.
But if I am getting a more or less similar growth, if I'm seeing growth in these smaller clients as well, at any given moment, I will choose my mental peace for, even if it's like 10 small clients, it's okay. Work is work. And honestly, work is a part of your life. Your life is not work.
Nice.
So you can't let your work affect your general well-being.
Amazing. Next question I want to ask you. You have worked on the agency side, but since you have worked on client facing, you know what brand side is. So what do you prefer? You're working at an agency or working at a brand?
I would work at a brand because that's eventually what I'm even looking at in the future. Like I said, when graduating from MICA as well, I want to get into the client side because agency, you have very niche work. The client side, from what I've heard and seen, you end up doing a lot of other marketing related work rather than just digital. So that's why I would choose brand rather than agency.
Okay. And just a question comes up. Is it a trend that people work in the agency first for a few years in their life, in their career, and then all of them want to go towards a brand, or is it?
I don't know if it's a trend or not, but I would say you should try out an agency first because that lets you understand what it is that you like.
Okay.
Say, for example, one of my brands is a sports brand. One of my brand is an interior designing brand. One of my brand is a media brand. One is a fashion related brand. Which client did I enjoy working the most with? Then eventually you could decide, I enjoyed working more with fashion. So the client that I will choose will be related to fashion. Why would I want to get myself into sports if I'm not interested in sports?
Okay.
Why would you want to waste that 1-2 years that you spend doing something you're not enjoying? So I think, in my personal opinion, going into the the agency side, working with multiple fields is a better option than directly going to the brand side. If you know, I love sports, I want to do sports, so chale jao bro. Great, well and good.
Okay.
But if you're confused, go to an agency. Try your hand in different things.
It's just like the dilemma that comes कि SEO में जाऊँ, PPC में जाऊँ, कि social media में जाऊँ.
Yeah.
It's just like that कि fashion में जाऊँ, sports में.
Right.
Amazing. Okay. The third would you rather question is, would you rather be able to use Instagram for the rest of your life and only Instagram, or YouTube and only YouTube for the rest of your life?
No brainer, YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube has everything that Instagram has. Of course, minus the talking part of it, the social part of it. But YouTube has so much that you can learn from. Instagram does not have that. You're mindlessly scrolling on Instagram. As somebody who works in Instagram, I should probably not say this.
Yeah, that's why I asked you.
Yeah, but no, honestly, YouTube is also social media, by the way.
Right.
So you do work there as well.
Okay.
But there is so much more that YouTube has to offer than Instagram does.
Nice.
YouTube, no brainer.
Okay. And as a agency, like working at an agency, would you rather want to work at like on social media, which is Instagram or let's say LinkedIn, versus YouTube?
Depends on what the brand is about. Because YouTube, you upload one piece of content it depends. If it's a fun piece of content, you might at least enjoy working on it. But if it's something that's very long format and you have to keep on rewatching the same video again and again to make sure there are no errors in it, YouTube can get a little tedious. Instagram, on the other hand, because also I have so much experience working with that, I am more comfortable with Instagram. So I would choose Instagram.
Nice. So personally, you would go for YouTube.
Yeah.
But for work, you would go for
work-wise, yeah.
Great. It has been amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Honestly, this is the first. I'm thinking of this as the first podcast of the many podcasts that you and I also have.
Yeah.
And in general in life.
Yes.
And honestly, I am looking at you with so much inspiration and admiration. And I really hope that one day you are, working with a huge team, outsourcing people, not having to do this all alone. And good luck to you too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I was of some use.
Most definitely. This whole episode, I am sure, for the agency versus brand, and within agency what to do, and after BMM what to do, or even BMS. I mean, I've heard.
Yeah, you can make that.
Yeah, I'm sure this was a very helpful, beneficial conversation that we had. I'm sure people listening till now, till this point in the episode, will have been benefited from this. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It was lovely having you. Really, as I said, being from the brand side, learning about the agency side in such detail was really helpful, and it's like eye-opening in many ways actually.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning into this episode. I hope you were benefited from it. I hope we were able to answer those questions from the survey, and it benefited you. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Bye.
Hi. This is the outro. I mean, I thought intro shoot कर लिया है तो ये भी कर लेते हैं. But इधर तो कोई देख रहा है, like hello. अगर देख भी रहे हो तो वैल्यू एडेड जो भी था पॉडकास्ट हो गया है. You can leave. See you in the next one. Come back for the next one. But अभी मैं बस टाइम वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ, पता नहीं क्यों. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.